Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for joining us this morning. Another wonderful opportunity to absorb our minds in the early morning in the glorious, amazing, and purifying activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're hearing this morning how prior to the Trinavarta demon coming, Krishna orchestrates a pastime with his mother. Sanskrit is Bhumao Nidhayatam Gopi Vishmita Bharapidita Mahapurusham Adhadyo Jagatam Asu Karmasu. Feeling the child to be as heavy as the entire universe, and therefore being anxious, thinking that perhaps the child was being attacked by some other ghost or demon, the astonished Mother Yashoda put the child down on the ground and began to think of Narayan. Foreseeing disturbances, she called for the Brahmins to counteract this heaviness, and then she engaged in her other household affairs. She had no alternative than to remember the lotus feet of Narayan. She could not understand that Krishna was the original source of everything. So, we're getting a glimpse into the most beautiful and exalted Vatsalya bhava of Mother Yashoda and Krishna. Krishna being the original father, it's very difficult for people to understand how Krishna can have parents. This is a point of concern or question or doubt when people sometimes read the Shastra. They read the Vedic scriptures. They see that Krishna appeared from the womb of Devaki, and then he went to Vrindavan under the care of his foster father and mother. It sounds very human. It sounds, how could this be God? But in these pastimes, Krishna reveals that yes, his activities are human-like, but he's actually the supreme original person here, the Mahapurusham. He's the original supreme personality, yet he appears just like an ordinary human being. That is his happiness, that is his pleasure, and that is how he satisfies the devotees also. The devotees, it's difficult, as we were hearing yesterday, to become attached to the extreme opulent position of God in his function, his functionality. Much more attractive are his human-like pastimes. They actually capture the heart. I'll just read the purport again. Mother Yashoda did not understand that Krishna is the heaviest of all heavy things, and that Krishna rests within everything. Machtani sarva bhutani. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is everywhere in his impersonal form, and everything rests upon him. Nevertheless, Krishna is not everywhere. Mother Yashoda was unable to understand this philosophy because she was dealing with Krishna as his real mother by the arrangement of Yoga Maya. Not understanding the importance of Krishna, she could only seek shelter of Narayan for Krishna's safety and call the Brahmins to counteract the situation. So there's different relationships, of course, that the soul can have with the Supreme Lord, and very special is the Vatsalya, the motherly affection. Sometimes devotees and Vaishnavas, they have differences of opinion about what is the greatest love. And those in the Vallabha Sampradaya, or the Pushti Marg, they advocate that how can one have a higher love than Mother Yashoda? She's the mother of Krishna. And her motherhood is not, it's not temporary. It's not something that comes and goes, or it's not a sadhana. It's actually her eternal bhava with the Lord. That she gets to take this most very rare and privileged and special position of accepting Krishna as her dearmost, her beloved son. We see the activities that Krishna performs in his childhood. They are especially glorified, that there are other avatars and incarnations, but especially his childhood pastimes are considered the most, or by some, to be extremely special. And they can attract the heart of anyone. Some of Krishna's other pastimes, they are a little bewildering. They may be confusing to understand, some of his relationships with the gopis and things like that. But when one hears about Krishna's childhood pastimes, stealing butter and running from Mother Yashoda, whether or not they understand, their heart just gets captured by that. They immediately want to love Krishna, actually. And that's the power of Krishna in his pastimes. And that's why Vyasadeva compiled this Bhagavatam as the essence of all the scriptures. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chikara Bhagavan Rishihi Nishreyasya Lokasya Dhanyasvastayanam Mahat. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God. It was compiled by God in the form of Vyasadeva, and it is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all perfect, all auspicious, and all blissful. So the power of the Bhagavatam is quite extraordinary. So the main aspect being mentioned here in the purport is that, foreseeing disturbances, she called for the Brahmins to counteract this heaviness, and then she engaged in her other household affairs. She had no alternative than to remember the lotus feet of Narayan, for she could not understand that Krishna was the original source of everything. So this is the Yogamaya influence that Mother Yashoda, she can't understand. How is it that this child could be God? This is her particular inclination, that she wants to worship Krishna simply as she doesn't even want to know that he's God, or even think of that, because that would take away from her bhava, her relationship, her taste and devotion. And it's mentioned here that in this difficulty, she actually had no recourse other than to take shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. And that is the situation of every soul, every living entity. Whenever there's a challenge or difficulty, something we don't understand, this is actually the only shelter. So one has to simply surrender that this is beyond my control. I'm a very limited, finite living entity. So many things are far beyond my power of apprehension, understanding, or ability to really do anything about. And that's actually a very good position. And generally, we want to think that when everything is going good, everything is going my way, then I can be happy in Krishna consciousness. But oftentimes, Krishna arranges so many situations, or we put ourselves in such situations wherein, without really calling out, then we take it for granted. We take Krishna consciousness for granted, what we're doing, the power of the process, and we don't fully appreciate or understand how much we need to take shelter of Krishna. That death, there's so many challenges we have, and death can come at any moment. We don't think about that. But that is the final test, the final challenge. And that is the sum total of all of our attachments and all of our progress, all of our spiritual practice will be shown at that time, that test, where our consciousness will go, and how much we've taken shelter of Krishna during our life will be tested at the time of death. So Mother Yashoda is here. She's having this very interesting incident where Krishna is suddenly feeling extremely heavy. She doesn't know what to make of it, so she simply takes shelter of Narayan. And she engages. We were hearing also how these Brahmins would be called for chanting the mantras for purification. So she also calls for them. And Prabhupada mentions from the Bhagavad Gita, this is Krishna's mystic power, that Krishna rests within everything, yet Krishna says, everything is in me, but I am not in them. Behold my mystic opulence. So this is his inconceivable power. So when he incarnates in this world and performs such beautiful, attractive pastimes, simultaneously his Achinta Shakti is active. You can't understand how he's everywhere, yet he's a small boy here on the lap of Mother Yashoda. And how he can be light and play and be thrown in the air and caught. But when he wants to, he can be heavier than the heaviest. So this pastime is leading up to the Trinavarta demon, another demon that will be very expertly defeated by Krishna. And we'll get to hear about that in the upcoming verses. So I'll just see if anyone wants to comment or question now before we continuing. Yeah. Yeah, this is what's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Machtani sarva bhutani, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina. Krishna is everywhere in his impersonal form, and everything rests upon him. Nonetheless, na chaham teshvavashtita. Krishna is not everywhere. So, Krishna, this is his inconceivable nature. That he's everywhere because everything is an expansion of his energy, and as the super soul, he's actually existing within every atom. But that is an expanded feature of himself. His original feature of Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna doesn't take one step outside of Vrindavan. So actually he's only in Vrindavan in that sense. But yet he's everywhere. Yeah. You want to share something? You go ahead.
Maybe I'll ask it later. I don't really.
Yeah, okay. Currently do things.
Okay. So, in Bhagavad Gita, regarding to that verse, I remember Prabhupada has given a very nice example that how that king is at one place, however his rule is spreading everywhere. Like President is every Trump is there, but his rule is spreading everywhere. That doesn't mean that President should be present in every place. So another example he gave also, like his sun. Sun is at one place, but his rays are spread everywhere. So that means Krishna is everywhere and no, Krishna is nowhere. That's very nice example he gave. And another verse I remember from Upanishad, like how Krishna became very heavy, like Anuraniyan, Mahato Mayan, and Nihita Guhyam, Atmasya Jantur, Nihita Guhyam. So Krishna can become very minute and can become very gigantic. So this verse is telling, because he resides, very nice point you said, he resides everyone's heart. Atmasya Jantur, Nihita Guhyam, just like machine. That's what I want to say.
Anything else? Okay.
I mean, the one point you mentioned I was going to meditate on a little bit more. So I don't really have anything now. So maybe, but one thing I appreciated what you said is that one of the most important points in Christian consciousness is that you said sometimes we think that when everything goes my way, then I can be happy in Christian consciousness. So it's a point I mentioned many times. When we pray that everything goes our way, we're really praying like Hiranyakashipu. I'm praying to be God, everything go my way. And is there a middle ground, unlike Queen Kunti? Because if we wish everything goes our way and it does, which it won't, we'll think I'm in control. But when Queen Kunti prayed, I wish nothing would go my way, no opulence, no education, no beauty. Nobody prays for those things. So we haven't come to that level. So is there I'm kind of running on freestyle, so maybe you could elaborate on some of those points. I was probably going to do something different, but it's a curveball. I have nothing really.
But was there a question or just your...
So we could do to come to Queen Kunti's level. So we won't have the notion that we're God, because as soon as we realize that things won't go our way, like when you said when we're in Krishna consciousness, we'll be happy. When things were going Hiranyakashipu's way, he was happy. But when one thing didn't went his way, he was immediately enslaved by vengeance, envy, etc. So we're slaves of our desires. We think we're free when things go our way, but then we'll realize how much we're enslaved. So what are some steps we can move forward to free ourselves from this enslavement when things don't go our way? So.
Yeah, the material paradigm is that I am Ishwaraham Maham Bhogi, the controller and the enjoyer. But this is, see, when the living entity turns away from Krishna out of ignorance and envy, actually, then he gets endowed with the false ego, which is the exact opposite. The ahankar is the exact opposite of the service ego, the real ego, the ego of being the eternal servitor of Krishna. The real happiness is simply in existence, in serving the Supreme Lord. That's the reality. That's the constitutional nature of every living entity. Jiver Swarupoi, Krishna Nityadas. And we cannot be happy otherwise. It's impossible, actually. So many people out there are looking for happiness. Prabhupada said, if we have this faith and this determination that without Krishna, one can never be happy. Unless that is a strong realization, we can actually preach, because we'll be thinking, yeah, you can take some Krishna, but also you can take nice car. And it's funny because all of the pinnacle of material enjoyment can be summed up in just a few things, right? Money, man or woman, and that's pretty much it, right? Nice car, that's what it comes down. But Maya presents it in so many varieties and attractive ways. This car, that car, this airplane, you get a helicopter, you can hang glide. So many ways to just get from one place to another. It's an unlimitedly, that she's actually empowered to do that, to keep the conditioned souls locked up, trapped up in Maya, in illusion, life after life, for millions of lifetimes. That's actually her service. She's divinely empowered. She's a pure devotee, so she's very expert. So when the conditioned soul has that enjoying propendency, basically he's in trouble. He's not going to ever find the happiness until, by Krishna's mercy actually, the causeless mercy puts him in touch with the agents of pure devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam, the holy name, holy dham, deity, the devotees. By coming in contact with them, the soul gets the opportunity to conclude his material existence. So that false ego, which is the original cause of his bondage, has to become fully dissolved. It's dissolved through the process of bhakti. This is explained by Kapila Dev. Devotional service dissolves the false ego, the subtle body. So that mind, which is always hankering for some extraneous enjoyment, has to look inside. It's really a problem of vision. Our vision is externally oriented. Because we're not sufficiently purified and educated in the Bhagavad philosophy, then we're always looking outside. We're simply getting bewildered on the mundane material platform. So many different things come, and this goes up, that goes down, this is hot and cold, good and bad. It's simply an entanglement of the soul, because the soul has not realized, actually, I have nothing to do with this. The soul, Hyayam Purusha, the soul is not actually in contact with material nature. The soul is pure and transcendental. But illusion, or false ego, makes him think. Anarto pasanam sakshad bhakti yoga madhoksaje lokasajanito vidvams chakre sattata samhitam. The material mysteries which are actually superfluous to the living entity, they're actually superfluous. It's just in the mind. The mind, the Avanti Brahman says, the mind is the cause of happiness, mind is the cause of distress. The distress and the suffering, it's not actually out there, it's simply in here. So this can be directly mitigated by the linking process of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva compiled this scripture, which is in relation to the Absolute Truth, the beautiful Bhagavatam, to redirect our awareness. So therefore, the key is that one has to very deeply take their sadhana very seriously. To equip in a battle, if you don't have weapons or protection, you're going to be finished right away. And we see that. We see that sometimes our movement's considered like a revolving door. Unfortunately, many people come, many people go. That's part of the history. So one has to inoculate themselves very intensely, taking shelter of Krishna. How? You know, it's one thing just to call out Krishna, but actually God helps those who help themselves. Taking shelter is to really dive into these aspects of sadhana. That will really protect us, to really take serious the hearing, the chanting, the remembering, serving, Sankirtan. It's not a casual, it's not a recreational activity, it's a life or death situation. Spiritual life or death. You want to spiritually live eternally, go back to the spiritual world, it can be done. Prabhupada said, in one lifetime. That's our life, the real life, not the illusory life of sense gratification, illusion, the dream. Maya is compared like a dream. Everyone is trapped in a dream thinking, I'm this body. all these things in relation to the body or mind, and things I have to worry about and dredge my consciousness, tax myself, carry this big burden of illusions. So that is the material position, but the Bhagavatam is empowered. It's particularly empowered to take us beyond that. So this taking shelter of these processes, really, that's the point of this text, that her only recourse was to take shelter of Narayan. So how much are we really taking shelter of Narayan? How much are we really calling? Are we serious yet, or are we still just testing the water? So Krishna responds, Yayatam mam prapadyante tam tatavajamiham. As all approach me, I reward them. How much are we approaching? How much are we really calling out? Are we crying? How much are we crying in Krishna consciousness? And that is sometimes described as a hospital. These temples are like hospitals, teaching how to cry. Without crying, then we're not really so serious. Why not cry before the deity, before Gauranitai? Then what we can do is connect with our heart. See, right now there's a discord. We're in the mind all the time. The mental platform, you know, there's different coverings of the soul. So the gross body is one. That's the first elementary level of consciousness. You see, like a baby or the animals, they're simply just whatever's going on with the body. That's totally what they're absorbed in. And then higher is the mind. So whatever the mind is going on, so this is how Maya snags us. She's always keeping us just running around in our mind. All day long. All those opportunities to remember Krishna. Smartavya satatam Krishna. Vishmartavya. Always remember Krishna, never again. We can't do it because we're so attached to our mind. The thoughts that are arising in our mind. We put so much value. Yes, this is such an important issue I have to resolve. And I'm going to do it by just thinking about it. I don't know about you, but this is what happens to me. The mind just takes you for these big trips. And what is it doing? It's just wasting your time. And that's a victory for Maya. This person could have been chanting for the last hour or reading the Shastra. He's just speculating. He's just speculating for an hour. Great, we got him. So Maya's active. It's an active force. Krishna consciousness is a test. Prabhupada said there's always two options. The right one and the wrong one. If we take shelter of the internal potency, Daivi, as much as possible, as much as we can, then we can always get connected with Krishna. Yes, it's like a life-giving essence, getting the nourishment. Or we choose to invest in the asat, illusory energy, and then we get more and more drifted away from Krishna. So these are very powerful processes that we've been given of tapping in order to, by Krishna's mercy, have the absolute truth revealed within us. As we were mentioning the other day, the kingdom of God is not there, or here, or there, or when it comes, when Jesus comes back, he's going to bring the kingdom of God with him in 2,000 future years. Then you can go. Now we're waiting for the second coming. No, the devotees, even here, even now, they have revelation of the eternal spiritual realm. So they're already there. That's what's available by chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna is not just like a little melody that we like, or a little theme song for the ISKCON movement. It's the highest. It's everything. And probably we were hearing how if it's chanted offenselessly, didn't we read that last night? It's chanted without offense. You remember that? Yeah. So again, our practice is trying to get rid of the aparads, and there's so many varieties. There's Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Guru aparad, Shastra Ninda, Prasad Aparad, you name it. Because whatever we're doing is so powerful. The Bhagavatam is so powerful that if we disrespect it, that's an offense. Krishna doesn't appreciate that. The deities, it's Krishna personally there. If we don't, that doesn't sink in, yeah, that's offense. The mercy gets choked up because it's so powerful. The association with devotees. As you're mentioning, a lot of devotees come and go. And a lot of it, what I hear, is based on the relationships. We don't actually respect the devotees enough. We want to point out, look what this devotee's doing. Look what they're doing. No, you can't do that. Why do that with devotees? It's a cancer. It's a demoniac tendency. Better you just worship the devotees, offer your respect to them, and the real instruction is find your own shortcomings. Then you'll be happy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said just these two things. Chant the holy name, don't commit offense. You can get Krishna Prema. So that is an active process to carefully guard against the offenses. At the time of initiation, the Guru instructs, when he's giving the holy name, now you be very careful and don't commit any of these. These are the offenses. Every single morning, these are the offenses. It's like getting hit over the head. But again, if we take it just like some ritual, there are 10 offenses to be carefully avoided in the matter of chanting the holy names of the Lord. That's all. 1, to bless and devotees, dedicate their lives to propagation of the holy names of the Lord. 2. So we're missing, actually this should be an absorption, a meditation. So these are very powerful. The Guru Avagya, to offend or disobey, to disrespect the Guru or the Acarya. See, we think, oh, he's a person, I'm a person. He's a little more advanced. You can't think like that with the Guru. Guru Tattva. Very strong, very serious, very heavy. Acharyam vijanayan navamanyeta hichit namartya nabhutamartya tasu. I can't remember this. Sarvadeva mayam gurum. The Guru is the representative of all the demigods. He's the representative, the corollary expansion of the Supreme Lord to deliver us, to take us back. And there's many Gurus. So dealing properly with devotees, taking the angas of sadhana bhakti very seriously, very carefully. And now to answer your question, no, I'm just kidding because we covered. But yeah, Queen Kunti prays, Janmaishwarya Shrita Shibhir Edhamadam Adapunan Naivarham Vedidhatundai Tvam Makinchiragocharam. Those who are puffed up with beauty, prestige, reputation, or high parentage, they can't feelingly take shelter. So thank you for bringing that up. That was the exact point, that all of these things and these mental illusions, we think I don't have to take shelter. I don't need to take shelter. I'm okay. Everything is great in the material world. It's a nice place. Today's a beautiful day. It's sunny. Chance of showers. This is the material illusion. This is darkness. Therefore, the object of knowledge, to understand the disease, the distress of material birth, death, old age, and disease. To understand this is a suffering condition. Whether it's a rainbow in the sunny sky or it's hailing golf balls of ice, it's all suffering. And it's all illusory and miserable, actually. So we can't buy into the materialistic paradigm of material happiness. See, this is required to actually go deep in our bhakti. That's why these initial cantos, they educate us in the Sambandha Gyan, in understanding things as they are. Otherwise, we hear about Krishna's pastimes and all the beautiful prayers in the Bhagavatam. It doesn't really, because we haven't awakened that need. It doesn't really touch us, affect us. We're still thinking, there's so many wonderful things else I can do. Yeah, my bhakti's not so good today, but just catch a movie or whatever. That won't help us. So calling out feelingly, yeah, that's what Krishna wants. Krishna wants the heart, not just the rituals, the mechanics, the body. The heart of it, that's what it comes down to. And we have a deep heart, we have a beautiful heart. It was made by Krishna, it's meant for his pleasure. The soul is incredibly beautiful. Every living entity is a expansion of Krishna, actually. So that's wonderful. Krishna is extremely wonderful. We're also part of Krishna, so we're actually also wonderful. Especially when we offer ourselves back to Krishna. We don't try to keep ourselves for ourselves, to glorify ourselves. That's a miserly consciousness. We're simply out of, unfortunate miserliness, we try to keep our heart for ourselves. Yes, this is my heart. I'm going to do what I want. Fall in love with so many different other part and parcels. No. We should offer the heart back to the owner. And the jivas are, as I mentioned, they're infinitely beautiful, just like Krishna's. And the soul is amazing. That's the language in Bhagavad Gita. The soul is actually amazing. It never dies. It was never born. It's an eternal spiritual atomic energy of the Supreme Lord. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashati sarva bhuteshu tatmanam tato na vijigupsate. The one who can see that the soul, the spirit, is part and parcel of the Lord, then he's never in anxiety or hatred. So again, we can appreciate others when we see this, when you have this spiritual conception, when you have the sambandha gyan, then you can appreciate others, and you won't just think what they're doing wrong, what they need to improve on. Better to see the spiritual side of it and simply offer respect to the jivatma. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedhaya na bahuna shrutena tam me vaisya vinute tanum svam. That the Supreme Lord is revealed to one whom he chooses. So our process to try to make us eligible for that mercy by acting in a very respectful way to Krishna's part and parcels, and take advantage of the process that's given by the Acaryas. And to go a little deeper. We all have to go a little deeper into the heart in our bhakti. Speaking for myself. Thank you. It's about 8:29 and 40 seconds. But I thank you for the questions and comments. Sometimes, you get a little blank, but the devotees always help. Some nice comments and questions. Okay, you got 2 seconds.
I was going to say, it's a good class. Thank you, Prabhu. I was remembering when you were describing the sunshine, either if it's bad weather or good weather, it's Maya, ultimately. It was reminding me of Chandramauli Maharaj when he was here for that week. I was spending some time with Madan Gopal Prabhu, and he actually told me how he was on a trip once to Switzerland, I think, with Maharaj, and he was looking out the window and they were traveling by car, and he saw this nice mountain view and clouds, and the sun was coming a certain way, hitting it all, and he kind of looked, and he had this reaction, Madan Gopal looked, and he said, "Wow, that's a great view, look at that," And Maharaj like right away said like, "That's Maya. Quit looking at that." Like, and so it was reminding me of that right away. So
Yeah, I heard a story that somebody told me in Hawaii. They were in Hawaii. Is this in Hawaii? And Hawaii is so beautiful. It's like these huge cliffs, breeze, perfect temperature. And this devotee was saying, like, he was just like struck with awe. And there's a verse from the Bhagavatam, so this devotee quoted this verse from the Bhagavatam, that actually this material nature is nothing but one living entity eating another. So that's all you're actually seeing. Because in order for the trees to live, it has to take over the smaller plants, and then the animals come and they eat the trees, and the moss grows and something eats the moss. So that competition on a more subtle level is going on. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.